Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Deep Chahal and I'm a project manager with Synergy Foundation. And I've worked with businesses across the province to assess and improve their environmental performance, as well as create educational webinars on the topic of sustainability. Before we begin, I'd like to share a little bit about Synergy Foundation. Since 2013, our nonprofit has been driving innovation in green business, circular economy initiatives, and food security programs. Through key projects like PC Green Business and Project Zero, we've supported hundreds of businesses in making sustainable shifts. We are excited to have you here as a part of the Squamish webinar series, which is funded by the province of BC's Rural Economic Diversification and Infrastructure Program. So let's dive in. Okay, so on the agenda for the webinar today is a brief introduction to circular economy, followed by looking at the distribution or types of food and beverage businesses in Squamish and their impact, circular solutions that can mitigate or reduce that impact, hearing from a local business owner that have already made a shift to circular economy, and then finally we'll be sharing some resources for businesses. So let's start by looking at the problem that circular economy is trying to address. And that is, in 2020, the mass of human-made materials officially outweighed all living biomass. This means that everything we produced, from buildings, cars, plastic, now surpasses the combined weight of all plants, animals, and marine life on Earth. This statistic underscores why we need to rethink our consumption and waste habits. And this calculation only includes objects that are in use and does not include waste. With waste included, human-made mass outweighed biomass back in 2013. So all that to say that we know we're extracting far too many virgin resources, most of which are destined for pollution with our current linear economic model. So we need to decouple economic growth and our natural resource consumption. So currently, most businesses operate in a linear economy. The traditional linear economy model can be described by the phrase take, make, and waste. So this is where resources are extracted, produced, used, and then discarded. And generally, this model leads to massive waste and environmental degradation. In the circular economy model, raw materials and manufactured goods are designed to remain in the system. And to do this, we use different re-entry mechanisms, all of which are powered by renewable energy. So as you can see in this diagram that we have, there are small inner loops, and these are areas of circularity which are prioritized first as they keep the goods and materials in use at their highest value. So just going through these, first we have reduce. So using efficient consumption and production processes, waste can be reduced before it's generated. And then we have reuse and repair. So through continued reuse, maintenance, and repair of products' useful life can be extended. Redistribute through methods like resale and donation, a product can continue to provide value throughout its useful life instead of becoming a waste. Recondition, products can be restored to like-new condition by either the manufacturer or can be redistributed to consumers. And then finally, we have recycle. So products at the end of life are separated into their base materials, which then re-enter the production process to create new products. And generally, recycling is seen as the last option, as it is the most energy intensive and requires major changes to the goods. When all other re-entry mechanisms have been exhausted, that is when recycling is utilized. Nearly 93% of all products and materials are destined for landfill, incineration, or left to break down in our waterways and on land at the end of their life. This means that of all products, materials, and resources in existence, only a small percentage is re-entering the economy. So to answer the question, why shift to a circular economy, we have a two-part answer. So the first one is to meet climate targets. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, it is stated that to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, we need to cut emissions by nearly half by 2030. The circular economy offers promising opportunities to get us headed in that right direction. Furthermore, there's the economic potential. So according to the center, the circular economy is a $4.5 trillion opportunity. What we consider as waste can be a resource with significant untapped value. If we can shift our perception of what waste is, we have the opportunity to create new businesses and jobs, strengthen local economy, identify efficiencies that lower operating costs for businesses, and create cost savings through reducing our waste to the landfill, reduced water consumption, and energy use. Circular solutions can help the food and beverage industry navigate global pressures, from supply chain disruptions and regulatory complexity to shifting consumer demands and environmental challenges. Crises like the pandemic, trade tariffs, and climate change have only intensified the need for businesses to adapt and build resilience in an increasingly uncertain world. Squamish is home to a vibrant and diverse food and beverage sector that includes local farms, farmer markets, craft food, drink producers, cafes, restaurants, breweries, catering, and food trucks. This thriving industry plays a significant role in the local economy and makes up 28% of Squamish's tourism sector. Sustainability is a big focus for many businesses who make the effort to buy local, cut down on waste, and make greener choices part of everyday practices. Waste reduction and local sourcing were the most prevalent sustainable practices for Squamish food and beverage businesses, according to a 2021 study. For this webinar, we are primarily focusing on restaurants and processors and businesses that do both. Some of the challenges and solutions we are going to share in this webinar can be applied to both, and some are unique to one type of business. So even though food and beverage businesses in Squamish have adopted sustainable practices, there are still many challenges that contribute to ongoing environmental impacts. First, we will lay out the challenges and then offer solutions for each challenge throughout the rest of the webinar. So first we talk about food supply chain emissions. So sourcing ingredients for restaurants, breweries, and food and beverage manufacturing often involves transporting goods long distances, which produces greenhouse gas emissions. Some menu items like beef carry a higher carbon footprint due to resources needed for farming and processing the food. Cattle farming, for example, requires a large amount of land, water, and feed, which produces significant methane emissions, a potent greenhouse gas. The energy used in processing and transporting beef only adds to its environmental impact. In a 2021 survey for the Squamish Agri-Food Report, the majority, about 58% of businesses in the sector, source less than 20% of their total supply chain from local suppliers. Furthermore, talking about organic waste, a large portion of the waste sent to Squamish landfill is organic, including substantial amounts of edible food discarded by restaurants, cafes, and grocery stores. Single-use packaging, so the demand of takeout and food delivery services continues to drive the use of disposable packaging, much of which ends up in the landfill waste. And finally, we have intensive water and energy use, so breweries and food production facilities can consume large amounts of water and energy, adding to their environmental footprint. So food supply chain emissions refer to the greenhouse gases released throughout the journey of food from farm to table. This includes every step: growing, processing, transporting, and storing the food. Low carbon menu choices focus on reducing the environmental impact of food by selecting ingredients with a smaller carbon footprint. So this can include plant-based options like lentil or black bean burgers instead of beef patties, locally sourced produce, and sustainably raised protein, all of which help lower greenhouse gas emissions compared to the more resource-intensive alternatives. The Squamish Food Policy Council launched the Good Food program with the goal to create a more sustainable food system and increase the amount of locally grown food purchased in the region. The project is working to support food purchasers, procure more locally grown food, and address barriers to accessing local food in the region. And we'll share more about this and their website at the end of the webinar, but what are some measures you can take to procure more local food? First, I would suggest having a 80-20 rule. That is, leave a minimum of 20% of your food contracts open to seasonality and for sourcing local. Second, meet your farmers and find out what's available in season. And then working towards setting targets to increase your percentage of local food options. And then finally, review your menu and feature local food on there as well. In British Columbia, organic waste makes up 40% of landfill materials, much of it coming from food businesses. So food waste happens at all stages of the supply chain, from production to processing and distribution. There are many ways to reduce food waste in your operations and divert food waste from your landfill. Waste reduction can be prioritized through your ordering practices and portion sizes. Are you throwing away perfectly good food inventory? Is there a lot of food left on customer plates? The first step to knowing what and how much food is being wasted is to conduct a waste audit. And this can either be done internally with the free tools we offer at the end of the webinar or through a third party. And conducting a waste audit can help you cut food purchasing costs, reduce waste tipping fees, as well as minimize overproduction and streamline your kitchen operations. Edible food waste can be reduced through donating to a local food recovery program, such as Squamish Helping Hands. Their Under One Roof Food Hub collects and redistributes food to community members in need, which helps prevent food from entering the landfill, as well as supporting those facing food insecurity. Upcycling food waste. So food waste has value and can be a great free resource. The beer brewing industry, for example, has many food waste related opportunities. As an ingredient, old bread can be a partial substitute for grains in beer brewing. Spent grain can be used in baked goods like bread, crackers, granola bars, dog treats, and pizza dough. Unsold beer that may otherwise go to waste can even be transformed into vinegar, a creative solution that not only prevents waste but can become a high quality product, highlighting the power of innovation and reuse in the food and beverage industry. After upcycling, the next best option for food waste is using it as animal feed, engaging your local farm suppliers to see if they will accept food waste for animal feed, whether upcycling or animal food. It's important to collaborate with others and talk about what wastes you have or need. Waste is a great resource, and that is worth talking about. And lastly, there's composting. In Squamish, businesses can engage a hauler for organic waste collection or self-haul to the compost facility to divert organic waste from the landfill. Convenience culture is real and it continues to be a major challenge across the food and beverage industry. Whether it's a food or beverage processor deciding how to package a product for retail, or a local cafe serving an iced latte in a to-go cup, the pressure to prioritize convenience often leads to choices that carry environmental consequences. And for processors, when choosing packaging, it is important to consider the full life cycle. So from raw materials to what happens after use. Reusable options like refillable glass bottles are the most sustainable in terms of retaining their quality long term. Think glass milk bottles like Avalon or beer growlers, or reusable jars for soups and yogurt, and refillable metal containers as well. And in case of metals like aluminum, when it is no longer reusable, it is endlessly recyclable and can be melted down and reused indefinitely without losing its structural integrity or purity. So it can be used for the same purpose as virgin aluminum. Whether it's metal or glass, even durable plastics, reusable packaging dramatically reduces waste. And if reuse is not possible, choose materials that are made from one material and fully recyclable in Squamish. For plastic, that would be PET, PET, or HDPE plastics. Packaging that is made with mixed materials like plastic and foil pouches are harder to recycle, and some materials like container lids made with both foil and paper are not accepted in recycling and are considered garbage. Also avoid biodegradable and compostable plastics. In Squamish, all biodegradable and compostable plastics are sent to the landfill. For other takeaways on sustainable packaging, take a look at our sustainable procurement webinar as well. And also in cafes and restaurants, there are many opportunities to avoid single-use packaging. Often customers are handed to-go cups without being asked, even when they plan to stay. Asking a simple question like, would you like that in a mug for here, can make the difference and prevent more single-use cup and lids from being tossed. For takeout orders, you can encourage reuse by offering a small discount to customers who bring in their own cups or containers. And while reusable cup and container service providers aren't currently operating in Squamish, there's an opportunity to change that. Consider teaming up with other local businesses to explore reusable options and connect with a reuse company to bring that service to the area. You can also get creative. A restaurant that we worked with implemented a cup lending library with thrifted mugs so customers could borrow a cup if they forgot to bring their own and just return it at a later date. The City of Victoria recently adopted a new bylaw to significantly reduce the amount of single-use items and make reusable plates, cup, and cutlery the norm in local restaurants. The bylaw's goal is to shift everyday habits in how food is served, build upon some federal and provincial single-use bans, and help businesses cut down on unnecessary waste. So in your business, consider implementing a reusables only rule for in-house orders. We'll share some real-life innovations from other businesses later on in this webinar as well. And if you need to use disposables, the City of Victoria has a good guide to follow. Choose fiber-based, unlined items with at least 50% post-consumer recycled content, if not fiber. Opt for items made from a single plastic type or aluminum, both are recyclable. Avoid foam containers, compostable plastics, and plastic cutlery. Use uncoated wood or bamboo cutlery instead. And for more details, check out the City of Victoria's Sustainable Takeout Guide. And in addition to single-use packaging, start a conversation with your suppliers about how your sustainability efforts and expectations and see if they can work with you to reduce other waste by using reusable pallet wrap, reducing unnecessary packaging, and opting for low emissions deliveries. So let's look at some circular solutions pertaining to energy and water consumption. So as some of you may know, kitchen and food production equipment can be very energy intensive. And when upgrading or replacing equipment, consider sourcing from companies that offer refurbished and or energy efficient models. This not only reduces energy use and emissions, but also supports a circular economy by extending the life of already existing equipment and avoiding the environmental impact of manufacturing new ones. It comes with a price tag, but if you are a brewery owner, it might be worth exploring heat recovery systems for your operations. Brewing processes lose a significant amount of thermal energy. A heat recovery system can capture and store thermal energy to supplement heating and cooling needs, helping breweries improve energy efficiencies in their brewing operations. And some of these examples include with the brew kettle steam equipment. So spray condensers or heat exchangers can capture this thermal energy and recover up to 60% of the energy required for boiling. With mash or hot water tanks, waste heat captured from these equipments can reduce the energy consumed during the processes of mashing and wort cooling. In a keg washer, adding heat recovery to a keg washer can reduce cleaning energy by up to 40% and supplement 85% of the heat required to warm incoming water. So those are just some examples. And now I would like to bring on Maddie Best to share some real-life actions taken by businesses in the food and beverage industry that she has worked with on implementing circular economy principles.
Hi, my name is Maddie Best. I'm a project manager at Synergy Foundation. A big part of my job is working one-on-one with small businesses and finding ways to implement circularity in their operations. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about some businesses that we've worked with through Synergy um, within the food and beverage sector and the kind of circular practices that they already had in place, as well as some of the recommendations that we had for them. Something that I really want to note here is that circular practices in a small business aren't just for the sustainability side of things. You'll see from the next few slides, there are a lot of potential benefits in terms of your business as well, whether it's new revenue streams or reduced expenses. So really just wanted to talk about a lot of the different ideas that can be implemented within the food and beverage industry for the circular economy. So the first business that I'm talking about today is a cafe and restaurant based in Nanaimo, BC. So they had a really cool setup where they were in this big old heritage building, and the right side of the building and the top floor was this restaurant, and then on the other bottom half of the building was the cafe. So same owners, a little bit of overlapping staff, but different operations. So we had a few recommendations for them. Uh, so the first thing after we wrote our report, the very first thing that they implemented was performing a waste audit. So we noticed that there was a lot of contamination in their landfill bins, both on the back of house side as well as in the customer waste area. And so there was a lot of stuff in their landfill bins that could have been recycled or composted. They had relatively high fees just for their landfill pickup and some overage charges as well. So the very first thing that they did was they performed a waste audit just to find that baseline waste diversion rate. So this is just the percentage of their waste that is being diverted from landfill either through recycling or through compost. After that, they kind of put in place in their calendar just some recurring waste audits to track their progress. So once they did that baseline waste diversion rate, they put in a few practices just in their daily operations to help increase their waste diversion rate. So basically reduce the amount of stuff that was going to landfill. The very first thing that they did, which is something that I've noticed that a lot of restaurants and cafes miss, but it's a really easy win, is just composting napkins and paper towel. So some people don't know that soiled paper can be composted. So that's a really easy one that can go in the compost. A really commonplace that we recommend is putting that in bathrooms. So just having a paper towel only bin in bathrooms, also near food prep stations, putting compost bins in really easily accessible areas there. Basically where you're going to see a lot of compostable waste, just try to place bins in those areas. They also began collecting soft plastics, universal waste, and Ecolab buckets for recycling. So one that stuck out that they were unsure about when we went into the report process at the beginning was the Ecolab buckets because they do carry concentrated chemicals. So they had just been storing them in their basement. They were building up quite a bit. So as long as they're rinsed and it's just the plain plastic, those are fine to recycle as well. So they were able to start recycling all of those waste streams. And then lastly, this was a really big one. If you're a business with a customer facing side of things like a restaurant or a cafe, a really big proportion of your waste is going to be coming from customers. So they made some changes to their waste diversion stations on the customer side of things in the cafe. And were able to find grant funding from their local municipality for that. So some of the changes that they made were making sure that their bins were right sized. So what we saw before their waste audit was that the recycling bins and the compost bins would get over full, and then customers would just automatically put stuff into the trash bin just because the other bins were too small for the volume of stuff that went there. So just making sure that your bins are the correct size for the amount of volume that they handle. As well, they put in really clear signage for customers that really helped them easily sort the different waste streams. And then they also just made sure that the bins were in readily accessible areas so that customers didn't have to walk a really long way or were not confused about where any of the waste bins were. So outside of waste, wanted to highlight a few of the other actions that they implemented after the report that we thought were really cool, just for some inspiration about what other food and beverage businesses can do. So one of the things that they did, this is on the restaurant side of things, was they reduced the beef dishes on the menu. So beef, relative to other proteins, has really high GHG emissions per gram. So some of the things that you can swap out on your menu, rather than beef, is swapping out to kind of medium level emissions proteins like chicken, poultry, pork, that kind of a thing, or even towards vegetarian options, fish, that kind of a thing. On the cafe side of things, they swapped to eco-friendly disposable cups. So what they'd had before, this is definitely a gray area, but what they'd had before were those kind of clear compostable plastic cups. So they look like traditional clear plastic cups, kind of the ones that you would see like cold cups at a cafe, but at the bottom they say that they're compostable. So there's kind of two issues with these. The first one is that a lot of municipalities don't have the ability to actually compost them correctly. So depending on the municipality that you're in, your local waste transfer station or local landfill may or may not have the ability to correctly compost these. The other challenge with these cups is that they look almost identical to traditional plastic clear cups, and so customers get confused and will throw them into recycling, um, which is not able to process those correctly. So generally we recommend fiber-based cups, or just traditional clear plastic cups that can be recycled. Another thing that they did, which was really fun, was they installed a beehive on their front patio, and used that harvested honey on their menu. So they didn't have to figure out how to run their own beehive. There's often, in most cities, there are normally beekeeping companies that will provide the service to set up and regularly maintain a hive for you. And then it's generally like a monthly fee. And then at the end of the season, you'll get honey from that. So that was a really cool selling point, and they were able to actually use that honey from their beehive on their menu. So just a really cool talking point with customers and a really great way to kind of get your honey locally. And then lastly, they switched to a refillery for some of their products. So for all of their hand soap as well as some of their cleaning products. So I would recommend checking in your town if there is a refillery that offers either front of house products like hand soap for customers, or sometimes there will be ones that offer refillable cleaning products for back of house as well. So next up, I want to talk about a brewery based in Penticton, BC that we worked with. So I'm going to start with highlighting some of their circular practices that they already had in place. Just wanted to celebrate those and provide some inspiration from those. And then after that, I'm going to talk about some of the things that we recommended for them. So, one of the very first things that I really wanted to highlight is their spent grain. So, a really significant byproduct of the brewing process is this spent grain. A lot of breweries don't really know what to do with this. They'll either send it to landfill or compost it. But there's a ton of nutritional value left in it. It can be used in a lot of different things. So, what was really cool about this brewery is they had pretty strong relationships with some of their local farms. So they were able to have this system where they would send them to a local cattle farmer in reusable totes, and then they were able to use that for animal feed. So that farmer didn't have to pay as much for animal feed, and this spent grain was diverted from landfill or from compost and was continuing uh, as a high value product. Another thing that they did was their fryer oil, they would recycle that. So fryer oil can be transformed into biodiesel, which is a direct alternative to traditional diesel. So they had a business that would collect it and then would transform that into biodiesel for them. And then lastly, I think this one is generally pretty universal. I think most food and beverage businesses have to deal with this kind of tricky supply packaging from suppliers, but they had these really large plastic buckets. A lot of businesses have to spend a lot of money recycling them, either driving them to landfill or paying pretty significant prices just to get them picked up on a regular basis. So they had built a relationship with the local community. People in the community and different businesses knew that these buckets were available for free, and they were able to pick them up, use them for gardening, or in like regular household uses, or with their small businesses as well. two other really great circular practices that they already had in place. The very first one was that they would use durable plastic can holders that could be reused multiple times. So, if you are a food and beverage business, just taking a look at the packaging that you currently offer and seeing if there are ways to um, increase the use of it. So, looking for kind of durable options that can be reused again and again, starting a system with your customers where they can return their old packaging and it can be reused within your production process. That's kind of the ideal scenario. So that's kind of different depending on the products that your business makes. The other thing that they did was they offered refills for their 64-ounce growlers. So just another way to reduce single-use items. So now we're going to talk about some of the circular practices that we recommended to them on top of all the great stuff that they were already doing. So again, on that topic of spent grain, as I mentioned before, there's still a ton of nutritional value left in it. A lot of people see it as waste, this byproduct, but it really can be used as an ingredient in a lot of things, in addition to its kind of agricultural uses like animal feed. So one thing that we recommended that can be a really cool selling point for customers is incorporating that spent grain in their menu. So it can be transformed into flour and used in baked goods. And even wet spent grain, it can be used to make things like falafels. Another thing that we recommended was donating their grain sacks to a local maker to upcycle them into merch. So I'd recommend checking out Goldstein Cat Craft Brewing as a really great example of this already being done, but it can be like a really cool spin on traditional merchandise that's a lot more eco-friendly, that can really connect with customers and kind of showcase your business's circular practices. And then the last thing that that we recommended to them was just looking at eco-friendlier options of their labels. So just kind of applying to your business, take a look at your packaging and see if there's more eco-friendly options. So that could be either items that contain more recycled content, lower virgin content, or that are really durable and reusable.
Thank you so much, Maddie. And now I would like to welcome Peggy Spare to tell us about her business in Squamish and some sustainable and circular actions they have implemented.
I started this business 16 years ago, originally just as a little snow cone stand at the farmers market, and with the idea of connecting with local farmers to make syrups out of what is being grown up between here and basically Pemberton, and turn them into syrups to showcase them on top of the cones. And that was originally the plan, and that's all I had in mind. Over the years, as our syrups actually became quite popular, people were asking to bring bottles home. So we eventually started bottling, but that took about three years for me to get around to. And then the picture of me here is out in the field harvesting elderflowers. I still to this day like to harvest a lot of the ingredients myself if I can, or to work alongside the farmers to do it. I really like that feeling of connecting with the farmers. And part of what I do is really just to showcase the beauty of what we're growing here in BC. Next. Yeah, so one of the things that we do, well, we go through a lot of fruit. Our syrups take an enormous amount of fruit in order to extract all the juices and the flavors and the goodness out of them. And originally it just crushed me with how much we had left over. And because I'm at the farmers market, I started connecting with the other side of farming, which were people who have livestock, and they were happy to take off my hands any leftover fruits that I had. So the picture with the pig that's what it looks like after the rhubarb has been, all the juice has been extracted out of it. And so it's just what we call a mash, and that ends up being super delicious food for the pigs. We found that chickens love all the leftover berries because of the little seeds in it. And we also pass off our fruit to anybody really in the valley who has maybe their own chickens in their backyard or any other animals, and they want a little extra goodness in their meal, we're happy to pass that off. We also pick a lot of fruit off of any of the remaining fruit trees that are here in Squamish. Originally, when Squamish was settled, a lot of plum trees were planted, a specific variety that nobody seems to know the name of, but we are happy to take them because they're bear attractants. So we're happy to take those fruit and to turn them into a delicious syrup for people to enjoy. Next. So as my business was growing, we decided we were going to build out a kitchen. And because we were a farmers market business, we understood the challenges in for a lot of businesses in town to have a commercial or a licensed facility to work out of. And one of the things that when we built the facility, it wasn't going to just be for us. We purpose built it to house a lot of businesses. The kitchen gives a lot of small businesses in town an opportunity to not only test out if their business is viable, but more importantly, to be around a community of people who are going through the same challenges and to share resources. So that's a big part of it, right? One facility, you're not paying a dozen or so commercial rents and building a dozen so kitchens. It's one purpose-built kitchen with all these people in it, and we collaborate, we share resources, we bulk buy where we can in order to make it just affordable for a small business to do their thing and to get started and to even see if their business is viable. One of the things when we get a lot of packaging coming through the door. So whether it's like we're receiving shipments or boxes of fruit, our packaging, whatever it is, or if we're buying from the big beast, Amazon, things like little things that we bought come in really big boxes, and we swim in cardboard here. So we could have been a really fancy business and had our own boxes made and brought in more cardboard to do, but instead we opted to reuse everything that's in the facility. So one of the things we did, because unfortunately, like some of the boxes are not in the best shape, they look a little rough, and you kind of want your brand not to look shabby. And we do our best not to, but we wanted to let our customers know that we took seriously what we were doing and living by our words. And one of my team members came up with a really great idea of just making a rubber stamp that we put on all the boxes that says, "Don't judge a box by its cover. We reuse and recycle shipping material." And shipping material has just gotten completely out of hand, I think, since COVID. So our customers have let us know how much they appreciate that. And ultimately, it's not about what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside. And what's on the inside is, I think, a really beautiful product that we put a lot of love and care into and mindfulness into it. And one of the mindful things that we do is the way we package our own product, our cordials, our syrups, is that we use glass packaging, and it's heavier. It costs more to ship. It's heavier for me to carry around, but it's for sure. I think it's a better quality product, and it's more sustainable. It keeps the product integrity longer than in plastic, which is an extended shelf life. And you can recycle it, or you can use it, reuse it, make a salad dressing for yourself and reuse the bottle. There are different ways. Plastic just doesn't tend to go anywhere. So these little details are super important for us in everything that we do. And we're mindful before we make a purchase, how are we receiving it? And then how can we best utilize every single part of that, and how do we, and then how are we shipping it out and putting it back out into the world?
So as we mentioned earlier in the webinar, here are some resources for businesses to implement circular economy into their daily operations. And here's the Good Food Program, a resource that we mentioned earlier in the webinar. And they're working towards the development of a food and farm hub feasibility plan. And I would also like to share a case study of Montreal-based co-op Boomerang, who are fighting food waste with circular economy by upcycling brewers' spent grains into a nutritious and tasty flour made for the food industry, as well as the Big Food Redesign Challenge, which was created in partnership between the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and the Sustainable Food Trust to catalyze and inspire the food industry to build a better food system based on the principles of circular economy. And you can also access these free waste audit tools to help you understand your waste in a bit more detail. You can find these on projectzero.ca/waste audits. And to show your commitment to sustainability, I would encourage businesses to become certified by the BC Green Business Program. The certification process offers practical, affordable ways to improve your environmental and social impact, celebrate your efforts, and join a growing network of like-minded businesses. Businesses work one-on-one with a verifier to find tailored, impactful solutions that help your business support the planet, people, and community. To keep the program accessible, pricing is based on a business's number of full-time workers, with free participation for Indigenous-owned businesses and a 50% first-year discount for Vancity Credit Union members. And once again, a big thank you to the District of Squamish and the Province of BC's Rural Economic Diversification and Infrastructure Program for making this webinar series possible. Thank you.